Julian sat on the edge of the velvet sofa, the amber light of a single floor lamp casting long skeletal shadows across the hardwood. Outside, Manhattan was a blurred watercolor of charcoal gray and neon. He watched Alina as she stood by the window, her silhouette framed by the rain-streaked glass. She was a woman of deliberate lines and quiet symmetries, yet she was currently explaining a chaos he couldn't ignore. "It's a lopsided world, Julian," she said, her voice barely a notch above the rhythmic clicking of the radiator. She didn't turn around, but he could see her reflection, the slight furrow in her brow that appeared whenever she stumbled upon a statistic that offended her sense of order. 2/3 of us. It's nearly universal. We lean into the right like we're following an invisible compass we didn't know we possessed. Julian smiled, the sound of his breath catching in the quiet room. He knew the data she was referencing. The papers called it the lateral bias of human intimacy. Most of the world leaned their heads to the right when they closed the distance. A hardwired instinct born in the womb, or perhaps just a cosmic quirk of the brain's hemispheres. It was the safe bet, the statistical majority that ensured a seamless alignment of breath and skin. "And the other third?" he asked, standing up. The floorboards groaned under his weight, a slow grounding sound in the silence. "The anomalies," she whispered, finally turning to face him. Her eyes were dark, searching his face with a clinical intensity that masked a raw, vibrating vulnerability. "The left tilted, the ones who don't fit the curve. If two of them find each other, they create their own symmetry. But if a righter meets a lefter, a collision," Julian finished. He was standing close enough now to smell the damp wool of her sweater and the faint citrusy scent of her shampoo. The air between them thickened, charged with the sudden, heavy realization of what was at stake. It wasn't just a physical act. It was a test of biological geometry. The right-sided world was a comfortable certainty. Julian had always been part of that world, predictable, right-leaning. A man who followed the gravitational pull of the majority. He had spent his life tilting into the expected angle, finding comfort in the alignment of commonality. Alina, however, lived in the margins. She was the exception, the quiet space where the rules failed to apply. She was the 1/3 that the world often forgot to account for. She leaned in, her eyes fluttering shut. This was the moment of the arc, the point where the mathematics of the human body dissolved into the heat of muscle and bone. Julian felt the familiar tug to the right, the magnetic north of his own biology, beckoning him to follow the path of least resistance. But as her face drew closer, he saw the slight, defiant shift of her chin. She was moving toward the left. He paused, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He could stay his course and risk the clumsy bump of noses. The awkward apology of mismatched angles that had ruined so many of her past attempts at connection. Or he could break the circuit. The transition happened in a heartbeat. Julian felt the weight of the 2/3 fall away. He consciously, deliberately, steered against the current of his own nature. He tilted his head to the left, crossing the invisible boundary of his own instinct. When their lips finally met, it wasn't a collision. It was a click, a soft, perfect integration of two anomalies. The world outside, with its grand statistics and predictable curves, vanished. There was only the warmth of her breath, the pressure of her mouth, and the quiet triumph of being the 1/3 that mattered. In the silence of the loft, the only thing left was the sound of the rain and the radical, beautiful symmetry of a left-sided kiss.